So, meanwhile, two of Trump's challengers in the 2024 Republican primary were asked yesterday about the latest indictment for the former president.
They're now doing an inordinate amount of resources to try to shoehorn this contest over the 2020 election into a RICO statute, which was really designed to be able to go after organized crime, not necessarily to go after political activity. And so I think it's an example of this criminalization of politics. I don't think that this is something that's good for the country.
We all heard that phone call with the former president, then president at the time, where he said, just find me the requisite number of votes that I would need. Doesn't that feel anti-American? Doesn't that feel like not what a president should do?
Well, we just continue to say it as I see it, which is that we see the legal system being weaponized against political opponents. That is un-American and unacceptable. And at the end of the day, we need a better system than that. And I frankly hope to be the President of the United States where we have an opportunity to restore confidence and integrity in all of our departments of justice in the country.
Yeah, but that phone call, you heard it, right?
Yes, but we've just drawn different conclusions. The next question.
You think it's fine? You would do that as president? You would look for the amount of votes?
He doesn't want to answer the question. He doesn't want to answer the question. You can't. If you're willing to sit back and excuse somebody trying to steal an election, calling a Republican Secretary of State who says he was trying to get me to throw out votes. That's what a Republican Secretary of State said and a Republican governor said. And then you sit there and you claim, oh, they're politicizing the process, they're weaponizing the process. You're not fit to be president of the United States. That's just it's really disgusting. And, you know, I like Tim Scott, and I think he's
talented,
a really talented guy. And people ask me, who do you think could win the nomination if Trump and DeSantis falls through? I go, Tim Scott. Tim Scott makes it. Not if he does that. Not if he does that. Jim Palmieri, it's so maddening. They keep talking about the weaponization of the Justice Department. Donald Trump steals nuclear secrets. He lies to the DOJ about turning everything back. He lies about everything. He sends his workers to try to destroy video surveillance tape that shows him moving those documents around with top secret classified military secrets about nuclear weapons, attacks against Iran, America's weaknesses. And they go, oh, he's just trying to politicize the process. He tries to steal votes from millions of Americans by setting up fraudulent electors to replace electors who actually represent the millions of people that did vote in those 7 swing states. And they go, oh, they keep pointing at that ghastly, dangerous Merrick Garland. Are you kidding me? Merrick Garland. And they keep looking right past the guy who stole nuclear secrets, allegedly, the guy who stole military secrets. I'll still say allegedly, even though they've got him dead to right on that. All of these things. And it's like seriously, when are you going to get serious about running for president of the United States and telling the truth about the guy you're running against?
It's like, it feels like, what you see happening in Iowa, it feels like a fantasy football league, right? Like, you can make your arguments that you're making. You might even win Iowa. Somebody might even beat Donald Trump in Iowa, but it has no bearing on what's actually happening, the stakes of how democracy is actually under threat, and probably also little bearing on who ultimately is going to become president of the United States. You know, it really struck me when DeSantis said RICO was created to go after organized crime. Yes, it was. And that's why it's being used here, because it was a organized crime that Trump and his allies committed. And, you see Rudy Giuliani talking about the same thing. You see the disdain that they have for what Trump did, because Rudy Giuliani said, well, this isn't supposed to be used. RICO's not supposed to be used for election disputes, as if what happened wasn't just trying to thwart the sort of fundamental principle of what the American Republic stands for. The sort of callousness with which Republicans have treated this issue, I feel it is, alongside the history that's being made with the indictments, we're going to look back on those words and words like what Tim Scott, who otherwise seems to be a very honorable, very, as you all said, really talented politician, will be marked in history as if we saw this happen in another country, we saw another leader being from, this is Berlusconi-ish, right? Going through these kinds of trials, and politicians continuing to back up the person who so clearly violated this fundamental precept of the republic. What would we think of that country?
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan Lemire from stealing, and they all know he did it. Yeah. They all say it off camera. They know he stole nuclear secrets and will tell you that off camera. And they know he tried to steal an election. And a lot of them, like Tim Scott, actually had to run for their lives and hunker down because the mob that Donald Trump sent their way could have killed them. And but for the work of some Capitol cops, there's some senators who probably would have been killed by these riots. So they know the truth, and yet they lie about somebody stealing nuclear secrets and trying to steal American democracy from them, from us. It's just, again, there's no looking past that.
No, there lies in these bad faith attacks, the whataboutisms, trying to say about, well, the two-tiered system of justice, Biden's DOJ, and, of course, the Hunter Biden matter, which they latch on to each and every day as their go-to talking point, instead of confronting Donald Trump, the man they're trying to beat in these primaries. They're simply not doing it.
Exactly.
Not even because they're criticizing his behavior, because they've apparently decided that would alienate too many of his voters, but even to make the electability argument. They're not even doing that to say, hey, he can't win. And to our earlier conversation, yeah, there are those close to President Biden who think that if any other Republican emerges as the GOP nominee, the president probably can't win Georgia this time around. Georgia's not quite there yet for Democrats. But if it's Trump, they like their chances. So